The Genius Donkey and the Not-So-Genius King. Part 1. The talking donkey who outsmarted a kingdom? In a land where logic took a long vacation and common sense packed up and left, there lived a poor but cheerful baker named Timmy. One sunny, slightly ridiculous morning, Timmy returned from the village market dragging behind him a donkey. But not just any donkey. This one wore sunglasses and had an attitude sharper than the king's crown. Timmy had bought the donkey for 3 onions and a slightly cursed muffin. He didn't know if it was a bargain or the beginning of a disaster. The donkey, as it turned out, talked. Not only that, he spoke in riddles and sarcasm, charging a hefty price in patience and eye rolls. Timmy, ever the optimist, thought this talking donkey was his ticket to riches. So he marched straight to the royal castle, hoping the king would reward him for such a marvel. The guards at the gate were skeptical, of course. Who brings livestock to meet royalty? But then the donkey opened his mouth, not to bray, but to deliver a roast that made one guard question his hygiene and the other his career choices. Inside the throne room, King Henry the Arrogant, a man who ate grapes like they owed him rent, listened as Timmy explained. When the donkey spoke, the king was furious. Not because of the miracle, but because the donkey was clearly smarter than him. The queen, bored from months of listening to royal speeches about broccoli policy, was immediately entertained. She demanded a challenge, a battle of wits between the king and the donkey. And thus, the royal smart-off was born. The contest began under a grand banner that read brains or hay. The king, puffed up like a pigeon at a royal wedding, asked the first riddle. The donkey's answer wasn't traditional. It was devastatingly clever and insultingly accurate. The crowd howled with laughter. Round after round, the donkey toyed with the king like a cat with a squeaky crown. The queen laughed so hard she spilled her tea ... twice. The court jester retired mid-duel, admitting he could never top this. The king grew redder and redder. He sweated through his robe. He ate grapes so nervously he chewed the stem, but he kept going. Finally, in the last round, he asked the donkey, "Who is the smartest creature in the kingdom?" The donkey paused dramatically, and then silence. The king, fuming, yelled, "You are smarter than me." There it was, the royal confession. Trumpets blared. Confetti fell from nowhere. The donkey put his sunglasses back on and demanded a golden stable, fresh carrots, and his own jester. From that day on, the donkey became the royal advisor. Timmy received free breakfast rolls for life. And King Henry, he began therapy and switched to apples. Less judgmental fruit. And that is how a sarcastic donkey became the smartest beast in the kingdom. Part 2. The royal disaster of the fake war. After being verbally suplexed by a donkey in front of the whole kingdom, King Henry was desperate to prove he still had brains. Or at least a spine. So he declared war on a country that did not exist. He called it Blunderland because it sounded mysterious, foreign, and vaguely like a discount cereal. The royal army, composed of 1 drunk knight, 3 confused gardeners, the palace chef, and Gerald the warhorse who, by the way, only walks sideways, was sent to the so-called border. Plot twist, the border turned out to be a children's petting zoo. Day 1. The army was ambushed by a stampede of toddlers on sugar highs. 1 soldier was defeated by a goat named Butterscotch. Another surrendered to a duck that stared too confidently. Meanwhile, the king gave an inspiring war speech. Except the scroll had been translated by an intern who thought it was a cake recipe. The king passionately screamed, "Whisk until fluffy and sprinkle with courage." The crowd cheered. Mostly because there was a rumor about snacks. Back at the palace, General Donksworth, formerly known as the Donkey, unveiled his master battle plan, Operation Waffle Thunder. No one knew what it meant. But the blueprints were drawn in glitter glue and smelled like maple syrup. Everyone applauded. To build morale, Donksworth introduced mandatory nap breaks, motivational insults, and daily meetings with Larry the Pigeon, who was now Minister of Screaming randomly. While the donkey plotted with birds, the Queen had her own fun. She replaced the king's throne with a bouncy castle. He didn't notice until he launched himself mid-meeting and bounced into a chandelier. He declared it a tactical flip. The chandelier declared bankruptcy. On day 4, the royal army reported a major victory. They captured an enemy spy. Turns out, it was the king's own reflection in a puddle. The puddle has since been knighted. And then, disaster struck. A real letter arrived. From actual Blunderland. Yes, turns out, Blunderland is real. It's a retirement community for magical seniors who hadn't had their tea in 700 years. And now they were angry. Their leader, a wizard named Mildred the Wrinkled, who once turned an entire army into cheese because someone sneezed during bingo. They were coming, armed with enchanted canes, exploding knitting needles, and magical bingo cards that screamed you lose. In 14 languages, the king panicked, fainted dramatically into a barrel of pickles, and emerged shouting, "We surrender to the sour gods." The donkey, he just laughed. A deep, glorious, echoing donkey laugh that made 2 guards question their existence. And so, the kingdom now faced a magical army of furious wizards with joint pain, anger issues, and zero tolerance for nonsense. Part 3, the magical mayhem. Now, it gets weird. The elderly wizards of Blunderland arrived at the gates, slowly, very slowly. They had to stop for tea, crosswords, and arguing about the price of soup, but when they finally got there, oh boy. One wizard cast a fog spell that turned everything pink. Another tried to summon a thunderstorm and instead made it rain spaghetti. One sneezed and turned 3 guards into moderately annoyed flamingos. The king ran in circles yelling, "Deploy the banana shield." Unfortunately, the banana shield was just a pile of bananas. Meanwhile, Donksworth the donkey had a plan. A brilliant, ridiculous, chaos-fueled plan. He called it Project Confetti Tsunami. First, he convinced the king that the only way to win was with maximum royal energy. The king misunderstood and started doing jumping jacks in full armor while shouting, "I am the power potato." Next, the donkey invited the wizards inside for a peace conference, which was really just a surprise party featuring disco lights enchanted to dance on their own. A buffet of talking cupcakes, all of which insulted the queen's hat, a magician duel-themed karaoke contest. One wizard accidentally sang a note so high it turned the castle windows into jelly. Another got stuck in a conga line loop spell and is still dancing to this day. Meanwhile, the queen finally lost it. She burst into the hall on a skateboard, wearing a bathrobe and sunglasses, shouting, "It's prank o'clock." She launched a glitter cannon. The king slipped on a banana. A guard got turned into a chair, a very comfortable chair. And in the middle of all this chaos, Donksworth calmly walked to the throne, put on the king's crown, which now smelled like pickles, and made the grand announcement. I, Donksworth the Wise, hereby declare that this entire war was a social experiment. Gasps, silence. A cupcake exploded from shock. He continued, to prove one simple truth, that power belongs not to those who shout the loudest, but to those who laugh the hardest. The room went wild. The queen rode a llama. The king cried into a jelly window. A wizard accidentally adopted Gerald the sideways horse. And then, applause. Massive, glorious, confused applause. From that day on, the kingdom was never the same. The king retired and opened a bakery called Soggy Majesty Muffins. The queen became a prank consultant for royal families worldwide. And Donksworth, he vanished one night, just disappeared. Some say he became a legend. Others say he became the president of a llama fan club. But one thing is certain, he left behind a golden plaque in the throne room that read, "Don't take life too seriously, or you'll miss the flying spaghetti." Part 4. Donkey goes rogue and possibly becomes mayor. Buckle up, because the donkey is going freelance. After disappearing mysteriously into the sunrise, riding backwards on a sheep, Donksworth the donkey reappeared in a nearby town called Bumbleberg, a peaceful place known mostly for its annual toe wrestling competition and competitive napping league. Naturally, Donksworth ran for mayor. No one asked him to. He just showed up, declared the air unimpressed, and stapled his campaign posters to sleeping cows. The posters read, "Vote Donkey. I have literally no idea what I'm doing." The people loved it. His rival, a smug chicken named Patricia Cluckington, known for yelling aggressively and owning 11 monocles. The debates were legendary. Donksworth answered every question with a dance. Patricia squawked her tax plan in Morse code. At one point, both accidentally declared war on breakfast. On voting day, chaos reigned. The ballots were replaced with glittery stickers. One voter was a ferret. The voting booth turned out to be a beehive. And the winner by a landslide was a rock with googly eyes named Kevin, but Kevin politely declined. So Donksworth became mayor by default. His first act, declare Tuesdays illegal, followed by bring your goat to work Wednesdays. As mayor, Donksworth replaced the police force with a mime named Jeff, installed a slide in every Vermont building, opened a museum of invisible art where visitors paid to stare at blank walls and pretend to be confused. He also accidentally signed a treaty with a puddle. It's now considered an independent state named Splashsylvania. Meanwhile, King Henry caught wind of this and immediately launched Operation Get My Donkey Back, involving a spy disguised as a very convincing carrot, a marching band that only knew how to play hot cross buns, and a giant net made of spaghetti. Donksworth was not impressed. He challenged the king to a pie-throwing duel. The loser would have to wear a tutu for a month and host a podcast about tree bark. Donksworth won in under 7 seconds. The king was last seen interviewing a birch tree named Carl. The town of Bumbleberg threw a party so wild it was declared a natural disaster by 3 neighboring villages. A squirrel was elected sheriff. Gerald the sideways horse returned as head of public transportation. And Patricia Cluckington became the town's angry motivational speaker. As for Donksworth, he stood atop a golden potato statue and said, "I came. I saw. I confused everyone. Mission accomplished."